Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you for organizers to hold this wonderful workshop every other week and giving me the opportunity to present my work. So this is still ongoing work, and I hope I don't disappoint you guys so much. And the idea is that, okay, let me start the outline of the talk. Can you see the second slide? Okay, yeah, good, because sometimes the Acrobat doesn't turn the second slide. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the model first, because some people know it and other people don't know it. So I'm going to explain the model of voluntarily separable repeated Princess dilemma. And it has many, many Nash equilibria. And there's also a bunch of different evolutionary stability concepts. So I'm going to sort them out. And also this game has a nonlinear payoff, unlike the usual game. So the evolutionary stability is also slightly needed to be modified. Then I'm going to focus on some cooperation in the society and would that to be to some extent stable in an evolutionary sense. And my new idea in this paper is to put the upper bound of the memory available for the players. That's one idea. And another idea is that the first, we discover very strong mutants, and then we try to put them inside the equilibrium strategy distribution and see if that stabilizes the situation. So there are two new ideas in this paper. So let me talk about the model. Some people know this very well, but probably not everybody. So the idea is that the society is a population of measure 1, and it's between 0 and 1. And the time runs in a discrete horizon and doubly infinite. So from infinite past to infinite future. And there's a chance that you may not have a partner. So if you don't have a partner at the beginning of every period, you get a partner randomly in the matching pool. And when you have a partner, you play the usual one-shot presence dilemma with 2 actions, and the payoffs are simply parameterized here. And after playing the prisoner's dilemma, you only see the action of your current partner, and you don't see anything else. And after seeing that, you and your partner simultaneously can choose between staying or leaving. And if at least one partner chooses to leave, the partnership dissolves and you become a single person again. And but even if both of you choose to stay, there's a small probability that you don't survive to the next period. So there is a survival rate, which is a personal discount factor, which is delta. So the thing is that although you might agree to continue, there's a chance that you survive and your partner does not survive. So in that case, you become a single person again. And another thing is that because some people do die and getting out of the society, to keep the society size constant, we assume that there is a constant rate of newborns, which is 1 minus delta, of course. They arrive at the matching pool as single people. So there are at least 3 kinds of people every period to find a new partner here. And another important thing is that once you become a single, then no information will be shared by the new partner. So there'll be no information flow across partnerships. And then if we luckily stay together and survive together, then the same people play the Prisoner's Dilemma game. And if we become single, for the simplicity, everybody gets a new partner randomly. Nobody meets the same person and then goes to the standard Prisoner's Dilemma. So this is the basic model of my model of voluntarily separable repeated Prisoner's Dilemma. By the way, the size of the random matching pool is endogenous, depending on the strategy distribution in the society. So there's a very similar model by Matthijs, but if I don't have time, I can't explain it, but it's very similar. So there's another very similar model.
May I ask just a question for clarification?
Yes.
Because I didn't hear properly. So when people are newly matched, do they know anything about the other player or not?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. So the idea
Okay.
is nothing. But actually, you can remember your past. So I don't assume imperfect recall. I can assume perfect recall. And so people could use a private strategy, using your past, but you don't know anything about the new partner. There are at least, 3 different kinds of people in there. So I thought the nice stability concept is some kind of evolutionary concept in this population game. So that's what I have been working on. And so now I'm going to explain the payoffs. And the point is that although, the one-person survival rate is delta, the partnership survival rate is delta square. So delta square appears everywhere in the computations. And also, as an equilibrium, I focus on match-independent strategies, which means that you throw away your past knowledge of all other past partnerships. You always focus on every pair only. So when you meet a new person, you start from the null strategy. And so given that, if you have a strategy S and you're merged with somebody with S prime, then by the definition of these 2 strategies, there's some kind of, the planned length of the partnership, which could be infinity. This is by the definition, but it may not continue to the teeth because of the random death. So within the partnership of these 2 strategies, each time with delta squared, you get the new payoff until the planned length of your partnership ends. So the beginning is no history. So you play an action against a new partner. If both of you survive, and because the planned length is maybe longer than 1, then in that case, you play an action, depends only on the current partnership history, and so on. So this U is the within partnership expected payoff. And the partnership length is, of course, this delta square until the end of the planned length. So each partnership with a different partner might have different length and different payoff sequence. Therefore, I take the average as a comparable payoff to the one-shot game. So the average is taken over the population, the matching pool distribution. So you have a strategy S and the matching pool distribution is P. Then you take the average of the different partners coming from the matching pool P divided by the average length of the partnership coming from the matching pool distribution P. So
can I ask,
yes.
should we be thinking of these strategies as pure strategies?
Yes, for the moment, this is a pure strategy, and we'll take the average of this as the mixed strategy payoff. You're right.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Yes, but it's already pretty complex. Yes, the point is that actually, the matching pool distribution appears both numerator and denominator. So this is nonlinear. Okay, if the matching pool distribution, becomes a convex combination, the payoff does not become a convex combination. So that's what I wanted to say. Okay, and so Nash equilibrium is defined in a standard way. And here I allow any private strategy as a deviation. So for any other private strategy, if a strategy distribution is a Nash equilibrium, then of course all the strategies in the support should be the optimal strategy. And but I'm going to focus on the match-independent equilibria here. And this definition works for any distribution P with arbitrary size support. But if the P has a countable of finite support, then as he asked, we can also do the standard way. is that to take the, the expected payoff of the distribution P compared to the expected payoff of a deviation distribution. So these two are basically equivalent definition of Nash equilibrium. And in my old paper, I also have a definition of neutral stability, but that's not so good. So this time I modified it according to Matthijs' paper. So the neutral, oh, by the way, because it's an extensive form game, there's no hope to find the evolutionary stable strategy. So we have to at least to go for neutral stability. And so the next
can I ask why you said it doesn't work so well with neutral? What is the problem with neutral stability? Just
oh, my definition of neutral stability. Yeah, the thing is,
I don't need the neutral definition. Just you said it is not so good. So if you just say what is it that makes it not so good?
No, it's a definition in my paper.
Okay, I see.
Your definition
is not so good. Okay, I understand. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Okay.
So neutral stability is a valid concept, but the way to define it in this model was not so good. Yeah, so I correct my paper here. And this is a standard definition, I think. But again, because it's possible to have uncountable support in this world. So let's focus on the countable support distribution. And also in this paper, I want to put up a bound with the memory. So, I might change the set of possible mutants here. So this M is a possible set of mutants that may not be the entire mixed strategy. So only for that. So given a possible set of mutant strategies, okay, a distribution P is neutrally stable with respect to this mutant set is, for any mutant, that there's a sufficient entry barrier that this equilibrium strategy distribution is not worse than the mutant distribution in the post-entry distribution. So this is probably the standard way, except that I want to change the set of mutants here to weaken it, basically. If I allow any distribution, actually, it is very hard to find a neutral stable strategy. So I might want to restrict the set of mutants. And so this paper, I'm going to use some automata here. And also to simplify the notation, this average payoff of the strategy distribution is sometimes written as this pi. This is the distribution that we want to check the payoff. And this R is the matching pool distribution. Okay, and there's one more concept, which is called robustness against indirect invasions, which is defined by Matthijs and for the usual standard evolutionary games with the normal form. The idea is this, that first you define equal performers and better performers of a strategy distribution X. So if a social distribution is X, equal performers have the same payoff meeting the incumbent distributions as well as meeting the mutants themselves. So these are the equal performers, and the better performers are either when you meet the incumbents, you do better, or when the incumbents only, mutants and incumbents do the same payoff, but when you meet the mutants do strictly better. So if one of these hold, then the distribution Y is a better performer than the distribution X. So this was his original definition. And the distribution X is robust against indirect invasions. If there's no better performer, this is basically neutrally stable, or there's no sequence of equal performers starting from X, Y1 is an equal performer, Y2 is an equal performer to Y1, and at the end, okay, the Ym minus 1 is worse than 1m. So if there's a sequence of equal performers ending with a better performer, there's no such sequence, then the original distribution is robust against indirect invasions. So I wanted to also use this concept in my model, but as I said that the payoffs are not linear. So the first problem was this equal performer. And as I said that if the matching pole distribution appears both numerators and denominators, then actually these many different things can happen. So the equal performer original definition was that, you meet the incumbents and you do the same payoff. You meet the mutants and you get the same payoff. Even if those two endpoints have the same payoff, if the payoffs are not linear, I would think that this is not an equal performer. I think in this case, mutants should be called the better performer, because when everybody is incumbent here, the small appearance of mutants would actually harm the incumbents. So checking the endpoints are not enough, basically. And this is also the case that the mutants should be called the better performer, because it actually may not be always better than the incumbent, but near when everybody is incumbent, actually small emergence of the mutants is better for the mutants. So this case, in fact, mutants are not, this is the red one is the mutants. The mutants are not equal performer either. I would say that they are worse performers. So I have to be careful, but otherwise I can adapt his definition into the nonlinear world. So here is a slightly adjusted version of robustness against indirect invasions. So instead of checking the endpoints, if all the payoffs, during the change from all P to all Q are the same, basically they are the path equivalent strategies, then of course the mutants should be equal performers. Other than that, well, of course, if everybody is incumbent and the mutant does better immediately, that's a better performer. And or, even though when everybody is incumbent and the mutants have the same payoff, if there's a neighborhood of the all P distribution in which the mutant does better, so if there's a neighborhood there, then I would call that the mutants a better performer. So this is the slightly adapted version of Matthias' concept. And again, I won't allow possibly a smaller set of mutants. So for each possible small set of mutant distribution, the distribution P is robust against indirect invasions if there is no better performer in the above sense, or there's no sequence of equal performers ending with the better performer. So this is just to be careful with the nonlinear payoff world. So these are the evolutionary stability concepts that I want to use. Okay, yeah. And then let's go to the concrete Nash equilibria that's discovered so far. And because, as Jürgen asked, nobody knows the path of a new partner, it's impossible to make the pure strategy, Grimm strategy, or any strategy that starts with a cooperation with a new partner a Nash equilibrium. If everybody is cooperating with a new partner, you can just defect and leave and defect and leave and earn much higher payoff. So this is the problem of this model. It's so easy to leave without a trace. So the standard Grimm is not even a Nash equilibrium. On the other hand, of course, playing defect always and leaving time can be arbitrary. That's easily a Nash equilibrium. But of course, we are all interested in, is there any good equilibrium with some cooperation? So here are some. And so in the old days, we have talked about the trust building, a gradual cooperation equilibria. And so the idea is that you don't cooperate, but you don't leave. So basically, you invest in the partnership for sufficiently long periods. So you defect, but you stay for sufficiently long periods. And once that investing time is over, then you switch to cooperation But there, again, you're ready to leave if the partner does not return the cooperation. And this one is known to be Nash equilibrium for a long time. And this one works for any prisoner's dilemma parameter, provided that there's a sufficiently high probability of survival to the next period. But the minimum time to build the trust may not be one. Sometimes it could be longer. At least one period you need to build the trust, sometimes quite a long time. And once you have this minimum length of trust building, anything longer is also an equilibrium. So this is a class of equilibria. And so far so clear? Yeah, so this is one reasonable Nash equilibrium. But again, there's no cooperation from the beginning of a partnership. So about 8 years ago, two groups at the same time discovered another equilibrium. And this one has an immediate cooperation with a stranger. So it's a mixed strategy equilibrium and a very simple one. So this is a Grimm, but as a punishment, you leave. So you start with a cooperation with a new partner, and you cooperate and stay as long as the partner also does. But if the partner defects, you leave. This is, I denoted C0 because this is a 0 period trust building strategy. And this one alone is not even a Nash equilibrium. But if it's mixed with this bad guy, defect and leave guy, actually together, they make a Nash equilibrium. So this was the discovery of these two papers. And this also exists for any prisoner's dilemma with a slightly different threshold of survival rate. But as long as sufficiently high survival rate, there is one unique combination of this Grimm with severance and the defect and leave combination is not just a Nash equilibrium, but locally stable. So what do I mean by local stability is this. So in fact, there are two places that these two strategies have the same payoff. This higher one is the locally stable one. So when everybody is the Grimm with severance, of course, then the defect and leave guy earns a much higher payoff. But as the number of the cooperative people decreases, eventually, actually they are bad, but in between, they can do better because they can stay together. If you meet another cooperator, as long as you both live, you can stay together. But instead, the defect and leave people, they have to leave all the time. And so here, this nonlinearity makes it possible that these two strategies can have the same payoff. And so this is the threshold. And if the cooperator increases the share, actually defect does better. So, something might push it back and vice versa. So this part is the local stability. So this was discovered, but
Can I ask something about this quickly?
yes, Christoph.
So local stability in sense that you only allow these two kinds of strategies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So therefore, we need to investigate, whether different strategies can destabilize or not. Okay. So that has been sort of an open question since this discovery. And even recently, I did some experiments, and then the people are not that simple-minded. So people do cooperate, but they don't leave right away. Instead, what people did was that even if it's a bit of mismatch, some people actually stayed, and luckily they cooperated afterwards. And also, similar thing happened. Even though they defected initially, but they didn't leave, and luckily they cooperated afterwards and so on. So this was discovered in experiment, which I don't have time to talk today, unfortunately. And then sort of me and another co-author found another Nash equilibrium that actually has this play path. So I'm going to explain this later. So anyway, so there are at least two kinds of Nash equilibria with the immediate cooperation with a stranger. And of course, they must be mixed strategy equilibria. So the evolutionary stability is a very important question. And here comes Matthi's great contribution recently. He investigated also a lot of evolutionary stability of non-Nash equilibria, but mostly pure strategy equilibria. So but this has been known. Yeah. And so if you always defect and leave at some point, that's not even neutrally stable because mutants can imitate this strategy until they choose to leave. But when they choose to leave, mutants can choose to stay. If the partnership goes on, that means that you are with another mutant. So therefore, from then on, you can cooperate. And this continuing method, what I call, is a very strong mutant, and they can overthrow this defect and leave at some point strategy. This was well known. And also, what about the always never ever leave? And that's a neutrally stable because there's no way to do this continuing method, but it is not robust against indirect invasions because this defect and leave at some point is an equal performer. So defect and stay forever has an equal performer with defect and leave at some point, and they can be overthrown by the above continuing mutants. So this is an interesting discovery, but these are pure strategy equilibria.
Can I have one quick comment?
Yes.
So I think that reminds me of Arthur's secret handshake, right? So a little bit as a way for them to identify each other. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, I should have called a secret handshake. I think in the abstract I said that. Yeah. But because there are other ways to do secret handshake, this is not the only way. Yeah, this is a very clear secret handshake. And I show another secret handshake today. Yeah. And trust building. This requires, for some games, many periods of initial just building up the defection and staying stage. And that's neutrally stable because they never leave on the equilibrium path. But again, it is not robust against indirect invasions because anything that starts cooperation needs a punishment ready. But if everybody is cooperating, that punishment part can be drifted into non-punishing strategy. And from then on, defecting people can come in. So with that logic, that is not the actual secret handshake, it's a drift argument. So anything with some cooperation at the end is vulnerable to non-punishing strategy with the equal performer. But once non-punishing guy enters, that guy can be overthrown by defecting guy. So basically, robustness against indirect invasion seems to be impossible in this game. So both Matthi's group and my group are mostly focusing on neutral stability these days. And also in this paper, I look at the mostly mixed strategy equilibria, including immediate cooperation. Okay, oops, yeah, half time already passed. Yeah, so as I said initially, I have to also try some trick to make stability easier. So I'm going to focus on some upper bound to the memory up to some finite number of states in the automata is one way to restrict the strategies. And I think this is not too much a strange restriction because it's implicit in all the simulations. And also, that the society might have an upper bound of the memory in the animal world and plants world and so on. So let's try this one. Once this is installed, then some of the continuing method of secret handshake, requires a longer memory than the incumbents. So that becomes infeasible. So there's a small hope for that. And another new idea is that because we are already dealing with a mixed strategy equilibria, let's eat the bad guy. Okay, eat him in ourselves and see, if that helps to stabilize. So eat the bad guy together to form a new equilibrium and see if that is better. So that's a new idea that I tried. Okay, so to start with the very, very simple word, everybody is restricted to use one state automaton. There are only 8 kinds in this word. Is that either you play cooperation or defection. And the only thing is that how transit, and the transition function can have, various combinations. So this is a very naive one. No matter what the opponent does, you keep cooperating. This is the Grimm with severance. You stay and cooperate only if the opponent cooperates and you leave, and so on. And this is the defect and leave guy. No matter what the opponent does, you leave. So there are various, at least 8 kinds of one-state automata. And so what are the stable strategic combinations here? And so in this word, these 2 strategic equilibrium already exist for any parameter. Okay, and of course, easy discovery is that all defect one-state automaton is not only neutrally stable, but robust against the indirect invasion among the one-state strategies, because there's no better performer there, because a secret handshake can't be done. So this is an easy one. And unfortunately, this simple pair is stable against pure strategy mutants, but not mixed strategy mutants. So this is another secret handshake mutants. So what are they? So this some group are this cooperation with the Grimm strategy. The other is a defect and leave. So an equal performer here is CCC, very naive guy. So he always cooperates no matter what. And if the society consists of these 2 strategies, this naive guy is also best response. And this is the most shrewd guy. So he defects and he, stays if the opponent cooperates. But he leaves as soon as the opponent defects. So he wants to exploit only the cooperative partner. So this is the DDL strategy. D and the D again with the C opponent and leave with the D opponent. And this is also the equal performer. So it's a best response. And I discovered, this is a great example, is that of course they are all equal performer when the mutant share is 0 here. But as soon as the mutant enters with a positive measure, this defect against the cooperative opponent victimizes the other mutant. So they sort of do the secret handshake. And so this is the distribution average payoff in this orange line, which is better than the distribution average of the equilibrium strategy, this purple line, because cooperators don't earn much, and this defect and leave people can't victimize this naive cooperator so much either. So together, this C0, D0 don't do so well. And so therefore, unfortunately, this 2 strategy, Nash equilibrium, is not robust to the direct invasion of a different kind of circuit handshake, which I call bring your victim method. It's another, the handshake among the mutants. Yeah, so the next, okay, so then let's eat the bad guy. So instead of defect and leave, let's pick that guy as a partner. Okay, so this shrewd guy that he only stays and defect with a C opponent. Now, okay, this is also a Nash equilibrium, and it became neutrally stable among the one-state automata. The reason is that now this naive CCC, always see and always stay, is not the best response to this pair. And among the C start one-state automata, only this, Grimm kind of cooperator is a best response. And once that's established, then nobody, no even, the many support distribution can directly upset this pair. So the point is a local stability, but I guess if I have time, I'll come back to the logic here. The point is local stability. And unfortunately, it's not robust against indirect invasions because now, this previous pair is an equal performer. So the previous pair can be overthrown by another secret hunting mutant. So this is not robust against indirect invasions, but we found at least immediate cooperation, neutrally stable strategy within one state automata. If I have time, I'll come back to the logic. So far, yeah, so restricting to the one state automata, this one was neutrally stable among the pure strategy mutants. When the mixed strategy mutants are allowed, this pair was still neutrally stable. But they are not robust against indirect invasions. Only the D-stat ones are robust against indirect invasions. So far, okay. And let's increase the number of states. So let's allow the two-state automata. Then things become very bad. Okay, so now we have two kinds of possible stable pair, and they are no longer neutrally stable once everybody can use two states. Why is that? Because now we have a new pair that can invade either different two equilibria. So one is to use the cooperator, but bring in this one period trust building guy. And they actually are the secret handshakers of this defecting leave. They imitate this defecting leave guy, but they don't leave, after the one period. They stay, even if the partner plays D, and after that, they start cooperating. So if they meet D0, they behave the same way, so they don't lose to the D0, and together, they are much higher payoff because of the mutual cooperation afterwards. And they alone may not be able to invade the whole pair, but coming with the C0 together, they really beat the both pair, this pair or C0 and DDL pair. So unfortunately, with the two, states allowed, so the nice pair got destroyed. So then let's go on. So now I'm gonna eat this guy, this one period trust building guy, into the equilibrium strategy distribution. And that's the tolerant equilibrium. Yeah, I have time. So the idea is this. So let's start with this and put this guy. This is the tolerant version of the one period trust building guy. So in the first period with a new partner, you defect, but you stay for sure. And once you enter the second period with the same partner, then you become the Grimm strategy with severance. So this is the DC0 strategy. And together, I put the DD0 strategy, which is similar. In the first period, you defect and you stay no matter what. Once the partnership goes into the second period, you try to exploit the Grimm guy, so you become defect and run. So if these two strategies are entered into the population, then suddenly this path becomes possible, depending on whether DC0 meets each other or they meet each other and so on. There's another possibility is that, well, similarly, so, you start with a cooperation and you tolerate whatever happens and stay for sure. And then from the second period, you don't tolerate anymore, but, you try to cooperate. This is the CC0 strategy. And CD0 strategy is it's sort of conjugate, is that they behave similarly. You start the cooperation and stay no matter what. When the second period, if CC was established in the first period, you become cooperator. But if CD was established in the first period, you become a defector. So these two are the conjugate strategies, sort of, and these two are conjugate strategies. And they are both sort of branching out of these original two strategies. And this BC0 is basically the good, whatever, the strong mutant against these two strategy equilibrium. So it's embedded now in this 6 strategy equilibrium. And the construction is that if the continuation strategies have the same ratio everywhere, then basically, whether you are in the first period or the second period, the future looks the same as if you are in this 2 strategy world. So therefore, going back to the matching pool, your future looks similar. Staying with the partner, his expected continuation strategy is also this. So staying and leaving both become optimal in this 6 strategy world. And therefore it becomes a Nash equilibrium for exactly the same condition, for exactly the same surviving rates. So C0, this is the Grimm, this is the defect and leave, and 1 period tolerance with cooperation or with defection, and then you diverge into the season D0. This combination, all of it is a Nash equilibrium. And we can adjust the ratio of different length of tolerance. So this is the new class of Nash equilibria, which eats the defectors and the strong mutant here. So I investigated the stability of this guy. Oh, by the way, the length of the tolerant phase can be arbitrary. We can extend to many period tolerant equilibria, as long as this continuation strategy have the same balance. So this can be, to the many state automata world, but actually it doesn't matter. Okay, so the problem is that I'm going to talk. This is the summary of the strategies that I'm going to look at. So the only thing is that the C-stat tolerant strategy requires 3 states. So if I want to focus on 2-state automata, I have only these strategies. So if you start with the 1 action, for any observation, you either become cooperator, or for any observation, you either become defector. Okay, so to be precise, when I restrict attention to 2-state automata, I have to look at the 4 strategy equilibria, because this C part requires 3 states. But anyway, yeah, so this is the strong mutant, and this was the first candidate of a good equilibrium. And it doesn't become neutrally stable. Again, this new secret handshake distribution, naive cooperator, and its exploiter can invade this 4 strategy distribution. So that was a big disappointment. Okay, so the point is this. So again, they are all best response if there is no mutant. So as soon as mutants enter with a positive measure, this DDL defect and stay in defect only with the C opponent. It victimizes a lot of this naive mutants. So together, they earn pretty high payoff as a distribution. As before, this Grimm, defect and leave are in between, and adding these 2 strategies would raise the payoff a little bit. But because these are very nice guys, this defect and leave people do not victimize this naive cooperator at all. This is too high payoff. So for a while, really, the tolerant equilibrium average payoff cannot do better than the mutants. So this nasty secret handshake mutants are pretty strong. So I'm coming to the mostly the sad story. So again, let's eat this bad guy. Okay, so this is the third trial. Okay, so that D0 is a too nice guy. And so let's eat this defect and stay only with the C opponent and change here again. So eat this guy into the society. This is also a Nash equilibrium. And now, because he is ready to victimize naive cooperator, naive cooperator is not a best response. So that's a good news. But then these two strategy distribution can overthrow that new equilibrium. Well, now, this guy is ready to victimize naive cooperator, but there's no naive cooperator in the society. Then actually the effective run and this guy have the same payoff. And now, adding extra strategies will raise a little bit of the equilibrium payoff. But basically, this one is too low because there are too many people playing the effect initially. And therefore, the mutant can earn higher payoff with the, this is one counterexample. But so C0, D0, this putting the highest payoff strategy and the lowest payoff strategy, on a reasonably high victim in the mutant distribution. So again, this is victimizing this C0 strategy. So different kind of secret handshake can still overthrow the equilibria that I have been checking on. So far, the summary is that, okay, so let's increase the number of states. And then the always is still neutrally stable. And then, but the various tolerant equilibria turned out to be not neutrally stable. And what's known before is that if one period trust building is enough, a pure strategy, equilibrium is neutrally stable. So I'm going to discuss this one a little bit, okay? And but first of all, tolerant equilibria with much longer memory exists, but basically the same problem. So this bring a victim mutant distribution is pretty strong, and they can adjust the ratio, how much victim we want to bring in as a mutant distribution. So it's pretty strong. And so is there any hope to have the immediate cooperation neutrally stable? And here is one. So this exists only for some prisoner's dilemma, but there's a Nash equilibrium with a slightly different ratio. Is this immediate cooperation, GRIM, and this one period trust building strategy. But this should be a tolerant version. So tolerant trust building and immediate cooperation. If these two become Nash equilibrium, which requires some payoff structure, this is neutrally stable. Because again, with this guy, and these two guys, no matter how many states you can have in your strategy, in order to become a best response to this pair, you have to have, the cooperation forever if you meet a cooperator, but also you have to leave the defector immediately. So only this similar strategy as the GRIM are the only C-start best response. Among the D-start strategies, they should be also payoff equivalent to, path equivalent to this guy. So it doesn't matter how many states are allowed in the society. With these two strategies, if they're Nash equilibrium, it is quite robust to invasions. So therefore, the hope is that if it exists, this is reasonable equilibrium with the immediate cooperation with a stranger. Other than that, we have to wait for the sufficiently long trust building to become evolutionarily stable. So to sum up, so if we want to allow any prisoner's dilemma, then the cooperation with strangers is really hard to stabilize. And because it can't exist as a pure strategy, it must be a mixed strategy distribution. Mixed strategy distributions allow multiple best responses. And some of them are C-start and others are D-start. Then this bring a victim is easy to form. So the only hope was, this trust building kind. Also, the putting up a bound in the memory didn't help so much because indirect invasion is not the same kind of secret handshake as a continuing kind of secret handshake. So as far as the indirect invasions are concerned, putting up a bound didn't help either. So this was a bit of a negative result, and the future direction would be that this is some of the bringer victim distributions are not Nash equilibrium. So maybe we should say that, if you are not Nash equilibrium to begin with, do you really want to, become an entrant? So there's a different, much weaker concept than neutral stability called the robust against equilibrium entrance by Swinkos. And in our paper in 2015, we adapted it to a neutrally stable equilibrium entrance story. So that's one possibility to weaken the neutral stability. But that's a right now open question. So I'm a bit early, but this is the outline of my paper. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you very much, Takako.